Hello everyone, this is my Module 12 case study. Summarize and establish the facts. The principal hired a great group of teachers except the struggling Mrs. Stevens. From observation data, the principal determined Mrs. Stevens was struggling with student engagement and classroom management, but appeared to have good content knowledge. In post-observation conferences, Mrs. Stevens was irritable and not receptive to suggestions. The principal met with Mrs. Stevens to discuss the final evaluation where he recommended her contract not be renewed. Mrs. Stevens became irate and cited the evaluation as inaccurate and that she did not receive any help from her principal in improving her practice. Finally, she threatened to take the school to court. Legal or ethical issues. Mrs. Stevens could potentially be harmed by the principal's recommendation to not renew her contract because of future job complications, potential wrongful termination, and social implications. The action does not contravene an existing law as long as all evaluation procedures outlined in the Board of Education policies were followed. There is some gray area with the evaluation solely being based upon formal observations instead of a multi-source evaluation. What we know from evaluation and supervision data and information is that an evaluation should be based on a multitude of sources and not just a one-time formal observation. Also, the provided evaluation form does not indicate any actionable feedback that was provided to the teacher. There was not a breach of contract and the actions were not discriminatory, nor did they constitute harassment. Synthesize. The principal has provided a struggling teacher, Mrs. Stevens, with an evaluation after multiple observations, recommending her contract not be renewed, and Mrs. Stevens feels this evaluation is inaccurate and not a true reflection of her teaching capabilities. Synthesize the facts. The people are the principal and Mrs. Stevens. The place. This case study did not include a lot of information about the place, so the physical location, the physical condition, the demographics, rural versus suburban, etc. The program, there's also not a lot of information included in this case study regarding the program. The case study does mention that a favorable recommendation would grant the teacher tenure. They also appear to follow a school-wide evaluation form to guide evaluations just based on that evaluation form that was included in the case study. It does not mention the use of district policies on instructional expectations or a system for evaluation. Identify options and consequences. I could choose to not make a decision or take any action. I could choose to meet with the superintendent to discuss next steps and schedule a meeting with the teacher and the superintendent to discuss the evaluation. Then, in order to promote a well-rounded and fair evaluation, the suggestion could be made that the superintendent conduct an evaluation of the teacher. I could meet directly with the superintendent and not bring the teacher into it. I could redact the evaluation that I conducted. I could continue to make the recommendation that the teacher's contract not be renewed and cite noncompliance. I could try to reason with the teacher and come to a compromise in the post-observation meeting. Evaluating these different options. First of all, if I choose to do nothing, the school could potentially be in legal trouble, and that does not solve the problem at hand, nor does it provide the teacher with any sort of actionable feedback to support improvement. Secondly, if I choose to meet with the superintendent first, then I'm not addressing the upset teacher, but I am working toward a plan to best address the teacher and identify solutions for moving forward. Then, if I just met with the superintendent and we did not have a conversation about bringing the teacher back into the loop, we would not be addressing the root issue. Next, if I redacted the evaluation, then I would not be providing the teacher with an honest assessment of where I felt like her teaching was at, and I would not be promoting improvement. Then, if I continued to make the recommendation that the teacher's contract not be renewed, then the school could potentially be in legal trouble, and it also does not address the issue. This also goes back to not knowing whether or not the school district has what their Board of Education policies look like for teacher evaluation, and also not knowing if there's a true system in place to follow for evaluations at this district or not. Finally, if I reasoned with the teacher and came to a compromise, then again an honest, actionable feedback that promotes school improvement may or may not be provided. Choosing the best option. Based on all of the provided information, I'm leaning toward meeting with the superintendent to fully inform them of the situation, scheduling a meeting with the superintendent and the teacher, and then having the superintendent conduct an evaluation. By conducting this evaluation, then they're providing another perspective on the teacher's teaching, and it's not just the opinion of myself as the principal, but it's looking at the teacher's performance from two different perspectives. This decision will incorporate all stakeholders, so the stakeholders being the principal and the superintendent and the teacher, and will ensure that the superintendent and the teacher are not blindsided by any sort of decisions. So, meaning that the superintendent is not left out of a meeting that has gone wrong between myself as the principal and the teacher, or that a decision is made between the superintendent and myself, and the teacher has been left out of the loop, and then the recommendation is made to not renew the teacher's contract without them having any sort of idea or any room for improvement. This decision will allow for stakeholders to voice their concerns and advice on the matter. The decision will allow for more than one perspective to be a part of the evaluation decision. And additionally, by meeting with the superintendent, a potential plan for developing an evaluation system that promotes school improvement and student success could be drafted. And then this is a link to a video that could be used in the conversation with the superintendent for drafting that well-rounded evaluation system on professional collaborative culture, just starting from the very bottom and making sure that this professional collaborative culture is set in place that an evaluation system can be built out of. Implementing the decision. First, I'm going to meet with the superintendent to discuss the evaluation, the post-observation conference, and the plan for working with the teacher. During this meeting, I will make sure that the district policies on instructional expectations are analyzed. Then, I'm going to meet with the superintendent and the teacher to discuss the evaluation. The teacher could potentially become upset by this, but I will use the actionable feedback guide listed on the next slide. Next, I'm going to suggest that the superintendent evaluate the teacher, so there is more than one person's perspective on the matter. Considering that this issue could potentially be violating laws, it's best to involve the superintendent and not just have it something that remains as an issue between myself as the principal and the teacher. If this plan does not work, then I'll seek out legal counsel for further action on what can and cannot be done. And this is the actionable feedback guide that I would use in order to guide that conversation with the teacher and the superintendent, just going through the evaluation and providing that actionable feedback so that they have room to improve. And thanks for watching.